So we are ready to begin. Welcome again. We are going to discuss about how to help our children, our child, to communicate and learn his language at home with the VICON method, because it is possible to work from home all aspects of communication and language. So today's plan. I'm going to tell you first the history of how this method came to life. Then we are going to see some strategies that facilitate the incorporation of this tool into your everyday life. And finally, we are going to leave room for questions or concerns you may have if you have started watching the videos, or if you are a therapist or a teacher. Okay. If you are here, you probably have asked yourself, why is it so difficult to learn to speak or to teach children to speak? Mainly if they have ASD characteristics, or if they have maturational delays or specific language difficulties. In any of these cases, you always learn how difficult it is to teach them on the weekly stimulation situation, because actually the best way to learn is by linguistic immersion. And that means that most of the stimulation needs to be every day and quite intense. Something that adds to this with ASD kids, or with maturational delays kids, is that there are other symptomatology that makes it more difficult. And that is why the intensity gets a bigger weight that with, for example, with specific language difficulties or with other kids, right? So that is also one of the things why the method was born, because we're all therapists, and we all found ourselves in the situation of not being able to go very deep on a weekly basis with our kids, even though there was a great commitment from our and the family's part. And so this method that allows that that every day, many times a day stimulation really helps and support the learning and the development of the language and communication abilities. The second aspect is music therapy. It gives us one of the central strength of the method, which is the motivational aspect. Even though it has all the communication, the relationship, and the learning abilities all linked, the motivational aspect is very important because it makes learning meaningful. Because when there is no motivation, no personal involvement in what you are learning, you quickly lose children. Because with adults, you may rely on the will to learn, but with kids, with no motivation, there is no further learning. You need a connection to them. This is equally frustrating, for example, if you are a professional, because sometimes you do get things on your session, but they get lost, and you get them again in the next session, and then during the week you get lost again. And or for example, it happens only with you and not outside of the session. And that is another way of losing what you are really learning. And the method allowed us to really connect what happens in the session with what happens at home. And it really takes everybody, the same information, takes them to the same places, and it allows a common language, a common background for all the adults, but for the kids, he finds that what he knows, it's used and present in every context that he's in. No? Also, and why is this motivational aspect so big? The first one is because music has an ancestral relationship with us, with humans. It's been with us from the beginning of our species and before language. So it is a mean of communication that is very important. So that's very important on the motivational thing, because it is linked to ourselves, to our rhythms, very innately. But also with it, there is a link between that motivation with language, because music is really different that speech, right? It has another tone, it's more playful, so it brings to language also a motivational aspect. Another thing that we were looking for creating the method, it's a step-by-step evolutionary added to the emotional learning. We wanted a method that was motivational. We wanted a method that was evolutionary and a step-by-step. And the uniqueness of our method is that it offers a systematic approach to that learning that makes it easier for adults. And it's a very singular combination of the therapeutic pedagogy, ABA methodology, and all the history of all the studies that's been done on communication and language development. Then there is a fourth aspect of our method, or that's present in our method, that is very important. For that is the other big leg, which is video modeling. This is not only important because all of our children are digital natives and they have a very direct relationship with technology, but also because for learning or for any training, we all need, for example, to reproduce what we are learning in the screen of our minds, that we call it imagining. And in some ways, the video modeling goes to that place of the learning. It's not just a practice with us, right? It's something that the child does and practice on his own. But also because it is a videotape image, it allowed us to manipulate certain aspects of the experience we offer that are not possible in the reality of our stimulation. Like, for example, the white screen, the zoom to the mouth, the combination, like in the picture you see here, I'm sorry, I'm pointing, between the word and the picture. And this allows our children to learn and develop these skills by focusing their attention to certain aspects and only to those aspects, which in reality, because reality is more messy, it's much more difficult. It also makes it possible for them to learn without having that social mediated experience, which in general, it's a barrier for them. So especially the ASD children. So it reduces the barriers for learning with others that they have when they learn with others. And moreover, for us, for adults, it's more comfortable, more accessible, and it has like this visual aspect that helps us and gives us examples of what we should be doing to help them develop these abilities or skills. And as I said before, it gives us like a common background about what the child is doing or saying or trying to say or mumbling. So you know where he comes from, and that allows you to interact more easily, to understand them and to have a deeper impact on his learning, which doesn't always happen when something happens only in one context, like in school or in the session, and not in the family. Okay. So with these things in mind, these are all the things that really distinct us from other kind of stimulations in language and communications. So we wanted, and as I said, is for us, for adults, is easier. It gives us a key to them, and it helps us to understand and to see what they have in their minds or what we can do, and it improves our experience and our impact in their learning. So with all this, we sort of have like a unique tool for language development, which is structured, comprehensive, from I don't know, a year and a half until 8 years, with a visual and musical profile that includes everything from the early development to the most complex stages of language and communication. It is designed as a complementary resource. It's not thought as a therapy in itself, but it's a tool we offer to deepen and to facilitate that learning and development in the family context, for example. As I said, not to replace any other therapy or learning strategy, but to fill those times between sessions, and to give families the support they need for that continued and motivational intervention. And that is what we think that makes it accessible and effective. Of course, that to do this, we rely on the science that teaches about how the brain learns, the need to attend, of motivation, and to go very, very deep in our stimulation. We go very, very deep until the mirror neurons, so that it brings that imitation that is so important to make our children learners. And another very important aspect that differentiates our method is our professional support. That is what I do, and it is a tool to help you with any difficulties, questions that may arise, to be the best co-therapist that you can do, to build the best learning context you can build. So I hope that you give it a chance so that you can see and use our method and see how it works within your child and family. Okay, now we're going into that second part I told you about of the strategies. And that first strategy is observation. You need to, all of us need to build that ability that allows us to see the abilities and difficulties our kids have, what they like, what they don't. Also take a good look at the environment, how you can improve it so that it makes learning easier and more effective and accessible to our child's characteristic. And also observe ourselves on how do we or when do we connect better with our kids, so that we know when to do that stimulation. For example, I find very often that parents tell me, oh, he's not interested, he's not watching he's not paying attention to the videos. And I said, okay, for example, do you think it is because he's not interested in the videos itself, or because he expects some other videos he knows, and it's more of a flexibility problem? So there, for example, most of the time, what we see is that he doesn't pay attention, but you need to build in your mind, or have in your mind, what he has in his mind, so that you know what is the barrier to pass by it, right? Okay. So, second aspect, measure and record. It is very important that our attention is focused on all the things that change, all the things that improve, and some new difficulties that may arise, challenges, needs. It is very important that we focus not only on the difficulties, our attentions, but also on the things that move, even though they seem small or apparently insignificant or not related to what they are learning. Our third aspect is team building. And here, our help is very important, but for example, we offer our support also to the professionals that are linked to the child, because we think it is very important that we have a common ground, and those observational and record skills are set, and there's an agreement on them among all the team, because there you move more solid, with the same view, with the same objective, with the same strategy. It makes it easier if it is like that for our kids to learn. A fourth strategy, we need to adjust to keep our kids motivated. Because, for example, sometimes the videos are not what our child expects, or the activities are not interested to him for some reason. For example, he doesn't like dolls, and the activity in the video proposes that you put the doll inside of a box, for example, and ask, where is it, right? So you need to make the proper adjustments so that that activity, when you play that activity with your kids, because of course we want our kids to learn through the video, but you want to translate or to take those videos into your reality and to be able to use that language in other contexts, in other moments, to do the activities with other toys, with things he's interested in, with so you need to make those changes and adjustments so that he keeps being motivated to learn and to generalize those learnings. And another very important aspect on those adjustments is that we don't usually focus on what has to be learned. Most times, learning and development grows from an increased and a deepening of what we already know how to do. For example, when we learn to blow, there are some videos specifically for blowing, because blowing, it's important in itself, but it's also a way of practicing, having a big and strong airflow for voice, right, and for discourse. So, so you don't want him to blow just once and to be able to blow a candle. You want him to blow all the things he can blow in any direction he can blow it, with different strength. And in that sense, you make an adjustment that he can blow what he's interested in, but he's also practicing and deepening that strength that will then be translated to other aspects. But first, you stay on that, making it better. Or for example, when our kids just make sounds, they haven't gotten to the word, and he keeps making different kinds of sounds. You don't push to words only, yeah? You try to deepen and to be playful on the richness of all the sounds, and then combination of sounds, and finally maybe words with meaning. Okay, so those are two ways of seeing the need of adjustments. Then there is another thing which is very important, which is sometimes you need to know some things, and that is why our professional help is very important, because of course we don't hope that you specialize on language and communication, all of you, not all of you, of course, but you need to have some ideas on where your child is. You need to know some things in order to know why you're not getting some things. For example, in this case, this is like the story of how you get to imitation. There are things that are at the heart of it, that are its previous antecedents, and that they need to be developed and play with, and they need to be present for you to get to imitation. And so we are going towards that, but you don't expect things to appear. You have to know that, for example, to have imitation, you need joint attention and for our kids to follow, to sustain attention in ourselves and our behavior and language, so that they know when they have to shift their behavior to adapt to ourselves. And that needs eye contact, object permanence, and sustained attention. You see how things are built one on top of the other, and you can't get really to imitation if you don't have this. And in our method, which is systematic, it goes from one to the other, helping you build those abilities that need other abilities. And with all the aspects, this is a communicational aspect, of course, but with language is the same. And finally, playfulness, which is very important for this, because every learning is not just a skill learning. It's also an emotional, a cognitive, and motor development. You need to vary the things you do, throw yourself to the floor, and be flexible, adapting yourself to them, to show them that you understand them, and to create those playful contexts that help development flourish. And you bring them closer to a more natural and habitual learning. And you enrich their everyday activities. You make them fun, which is very important, reduces anxiety and enables them to have a deep and complex learning of these very complex abilities. I hope this time and activities I'm sharing with you are very helpful. And remember that each of us is unique, and with the right tools, we can overcome every challenge we find in our ways. Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you all great days of learning with us. Thank you.